Welcome to Castle Combe Racing Club. We're here for Howard's Day, which is the first of our 10 race meetings this season. We've got a busy grid full of racing for you. If you don't happen to have made it to us today, do come and join us at some point through the season. Thanks ever so much to all of our sponsors and spectators, families and friends who support the club.
So I'm Max and I'm the commercial manager for the circuit. So my job is basically to help the circuit make money. That can be through events like today, it can be through bringing in sponsorship, it can be through managing our expenses, kind of anything and everything really. I've been working here for just under 2 years, but I've been coming here as a competitor for probably 10 years before that, and then as a fan probably for another 10 years before that, so quite a while. There was a race I was in here quite a few years ago now where when motorbikes race around here we have an extra chicane before the last corner, and on the very first lap the leader crashed straight into the barriers of the chicane and kind of sent the barriers flying all over the place, and everyone kind of slowed down and paused for a second, and then the race kind of cracked on and they were kind of weaving through the barriers and carrying on. So yeah, that was a little bit unusual. It changes every time really. There's always so many different things going on for a race day. So like today, for example, I'm running our hospitality experience upstairs, which is Paddock Club. But yeah, it can be all different kind of things. We can be helping assist the racing club in running their day. We can be working in the shop. We can be bringing in other entertainment. A lot of race events we have live music, or we have like fun fair rides and other trade stands. So there's always kind of different things to do. So yeah, I guess no two race days are quite the same. No, it's been pretty smooth running today so far. There's been a couple of small crashes, but nothing more than you'd expect on a race day. So yeah, so far it's been going very smoothly, but we've still got all the racing to go. So Howard's Day is always the first race meeting of the year. So it can always be quite hectic because it's the first one that we've done for probably 6 months. It pretty much always consists of the main Castle Combe Racing Club Championship, so the GT Car Championship, the Formula Fords, the saloon cars and the hot hatches. And then there'll be a few guest series that come in as well. So like today, I think, for example, there's the 500 owners club that have a race as well. So yeah, it always kind of features those core championships, and it's always the start to the season. It launches the race season for us, basically. So Howard Strawford was the owner and managing director of the circuit for just over 40 years. The Howard and the Strawford family took over the circuit in 1970 and kind of made it what it is today. I think if it wasn't for Howard and his partner Pat, none of us would really be here. They built most of the facilities here. They brought the racing club here, and yeah, basically kind of made Castle Combe what it is. Unfortunately, Howard passed away in 2013, so about 12 years ago now, and ever since, the first race day of the season has always been Howard's race day because it's been dedicated to his memory and what he did for the circuit. So yeah, Howard Strawford and the Strawford family still, the Strawford family still own the circuit, and this was built as a sort of a hospitality slash race building about 15 years ago now, and it's named after the Strawford family again because of what they've done for the circuit. Personally, I always look forward to the Formula Ford race just because that's where you see the most battling, you see the most overtaking, you see the most action. Although it's not always the fastest lap times, it's where you see the most race action, definitely. Personally, for me, I find it looks the most fun race to be in. They're the only sort of open wheel single seater cars here, which is I always think is the cooler cars to be racing in, and yeah, generally for whatever reason they also seem to bring the best action and have the most entertaining races. Yeah, motorsport is very expensive. Even if you're someone that's just coming to do a regular car track day, once you make the step up to racing, it's incredibly expensive, and unfortunately it's only getting more expensive with the cost of fuel going up, the cost of tyres going up, the cost of running a race circuit, and therefore the cost of entries going up. So yeah, just to come and do one race meeting is very expensive, and a lot of the teams and drivers rely heavily on sponsors because it's just not something that you can fund yourself, and unfortunately that's where we see most of the drivers and riders dropping out, is because they just don't have the funding or the backing to be able to do a full season or even a few rounds. So yeah, it unfortunately, as great as motorsport is, it's very expensive no matter kind of what discipline you're doing, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Yes, it varies depending on what level you're racing at, but it is still very expensive. I think in some cases it's a little bit cheaper than car racing, but I still rely heavily on my sponsors to be able to go racing every year. I've always been a two-wheeled fan, and that's been my passion, and that's been the racing that I've been around for my whole life. It's kind of up until working here, I've not really been that involved in car racing. It's something that I've definitely got more into, but I'll always be a two-wheeled fan.
Qualifying was tough. First time in the car in an official session. First time in the car in the wet. It was a bit daunting to start with, but yeah, we built up to it, found some pace. Traffic was the main limiting factor. Didn't really get a lap where I didn't come across someone at some point. On my best lap, I was sort of on for a roughly top 5 position, which I would have been very happy with in my first qualifying, but didn't quite get to that point because we got traffic. But yeah, no, overall fairly happy. First session in the car, got through it. That was the most important part, and we managed to do that P9 and P10 for the races. It's tough to say. We know that we've got a fair bit to gain in terms of natural dry pace. I've only had 2 or 3 hours so far in the car in total, and at this track it's not like a Silverstone, it's not like a Brands Hatch. It punishes you, as we found out actually, because we had a bit of a crash during media day. But it's very difficult to say. If it stays wet, I think we can possibly move forward a little bit. If it dries up, it's going to be just finding out, trying to move forward a little bit, hopefully try and make a good start. Tends to be a strong point of ours, and seeing if we can try and move forward. It depends where you come from, really. For most people, myself included, it's more or less impossible without them. The state of the sport has just gotten to the point where if you don't have money from some kind of source, you're basically not going to get on track. I've got some people on board who are helping me, and it's very difficult to do without them. You need either a kind of silver spoon in your mouth, which lots of people are lucky enough to have, or you need to just be willing to work as hard as you can to get as many people on board, and that's what I'm doing pretty much every day at this point. Probably a lot harder than most people think, because it's probably quite a surprising thing to most people how many emails companies get asking for these kind of partnerships, these kind of sponsorships, and 99% of the time they're not even going to respond, let alone say no. And so it kind of comes out to, you try and send 50, 100 emails a day. You send 100 emails, maybe one will respond, and you hope that response is a yes. So, it's not as simple as just writing a letter as well. You got to try and really sell yourself, make yourself a brand before you even start looking for sponsors, because if you don't have that, you're not going to get anywhere, quite frankly. It can vary quite a lot with what team you're in, but I can tell you that if you want to come and do this championship here in Castle Combe for a year, if you want to include enough to pay a bit of damage, I'd say £17,000-18,000. So yeah, depending on where you're from, it's a lot of money. Where I'm from, it's quite a lot of money. So yeah, we're trying to make what we can of it this year. Well, it depends what the schedule is, of course, but for me, I tend to want to wake up in plenty of time, allow myself some time to just kind of center myself in the morning, get myself mentally prepared. If we have qualifying on a separate day to race day, then it's about waking up on race morning and not overthinking anything, not underthinking anything. From the second I'm waking up, I'm usually thinking about the run into the first corner, and then we try and envisage how the race will evolve, but in a series like this, the field's so competitive. There's not much point. So you just gotta try and take it one step at a time. And then we roll up at the track. Briefings usually last a little bit. Have to get here very early. This morning we had a briefing at 7:30, which was a bit rough, to be honest. But yeah, that was all fine. And now we've gone out on track for qualifying. 2 races later today. So yeah, busy schedule, but it's what we do it for. Really, can't complain. For me, I find it super important. One of my closest partners actually is an American fitness brand that specifically works with racing drivers, and so they're training me, and I'm kind of working with them to try and increase their exposure. For me, it's just so important. I mean, for these cars, Formula Ford, you don't need to be that fit to drive them. Most people can get on fine. But when you have a good level of fitness, it's just one less thing to think about while you're driving. Because I know a lot of people, even in these, they go out on track and, they don't, not necessarily that they're heavily overweight or anything, but if you haven't, trained your muscles, you haven't trained your lungs, then, you can do a few laps and you'll get to the point where it's invading your ability to focus, because you've not got it left in your arms, you've not got it left in your lungs, and it just becomes really challenging to just push through an entire race. And so for me, the most important thing that fitness does at the minute is just give me one less thing to worry about while I'm on track. It's the start of my car racing journey. Yes, I've been racing go-karts around in Saudi World Series races in Europe for like 4 years now. 4 years. And so this was a logical next step. We did lots of work with professional factories and professional people and professional factories in go-karting, but it never really transpired to a full season in private karting. So. Here we just wanted to put the money into the cars. We did some testing over in the Netherlands where I currently live, and it became very clear very quickly that it was worth giving as much money as we can to have me race. I was being coached by a ex-Formula 2 driver who I probably can't name at the minute, but and we were heavily encouraged to just go for it, give what we can to it. So this is the start of my car racing journey. Not a clear-cut one, no. I do study. I study business. I was previously studying in Barcelona, but we got this opportunity to come and race here. So I decided best to, kind of put that on pause, but probably just leave it and give everything we can to racing, both financially and in terms of my my time and my space. So that's what we ended up doing. So business is kind of what I'm following, probably because aside from something like engineering, which I'm very interested in, but probably not quite got the brains for it, it was the only thing that was really close to the sport. So business is the way to go. I'm very interested in entrepreneurship. I want to look at things like business ownership in the future, but business is the plan B, so to speak, but it's nothing specific. Depends on the people you have around you. Most specifically, your university, college, whatever you do, they have to be very understanding of what you do. They have to be very understanding that what you're doing is something that you're trying to make professional, and that has to be, the main focus of your time. Whereas for most students, if you don't do something like a music or sport, whatever, the school is their focus. And as long as you have a cohort and a faculty that understand where your focus is, and that you're going to be in and out of classes, you're going to be sometimes even in and out of exams. As long as you have an understanding group around you, it's fairly okay. It can be very difficult to balance your day-to-day life, because for me personally, I when you combine sim training and physical training, which I do quite a lot of both of, that comes to about 4 or 5 hours a day in total. And if you're trying to also go to classes and then have assignments to do, the day slips away very, very quickly. So that's the main difficult thing, but that's what you have to do within yourself. That's not something anyone else can do for you. It was nice. I did that in Zandvoort over in the Netherlands. It was a cool experience. We weren't driving anything very quick, just an MX-5 Cup car, a Mazda MX-5 Cup car. It was good fun. We kind of got separated into people who were, truly very new to the sport, and then people who are people like me. They know what they're doing on a racetrack. We just need some guidance as to, more finding time than being safe, if that makes sense. That was the main focus of that day. I was within, 20-30 minutes. I was pretty much on the pace that they do in the races in that championship. And obviously we have to do the theory and everything, which is something a lot of people think you don't really have to do, but there's a theory test for getting a racing license. Pretty intense. You need nearly 100% to pass it. And so 100% over 30 questions is tough, but pretty much did it. So that was good, and we're going to soon upgrade my license to be able to race internationally, globally. I think, needless to say, if you're over here in Europe, there's two. You go either the sports car route or you go the single-seater route. I am driving a single-seater route at the minute, but I want to do sports cars. We just agreed that Formula Ford is a great place to start because it's just such a good platform to learn. It just seemed logical in every way. But if it depends where you are in the world, really. Like I say, over here in Europe, you go single-seaters or you can go through sports cars. But you pretty much always have to start with karting if you want to be a professional. I think I know maybe 2 or 3 people out there ever who have become professional and not done karting in any proper way. So karting is always a standpoint, but then you need to pick whether you want to do closed wheel, open wheel, basically. 100%, absolutely. I've done quite a lot of esports stuff in the past few years. I'm not the best esports driver in the world, but I'm quite comfortably in the top 1%. And it has done so much for me. Like even today out on track, it was very wet. Not very wet. It was definitely wet out there. And as much as my karting experience is probably the main thing that helped me, if it weren't for my experience recently with iRacing, driving their fantastic wet weather model, I would really struggle with things like the braking and knowing at what point you can feel the car start to go under you. So esports is 100% a valid route. It's just about when you're doing the esports, knowing when to try and get an opportunity to do it for real. First time driving, no. First time racing, yes. I did the pre-race test day a few days ago, and then we had media day. First time driving, not, but first time racing, yes. Unforgiving is the only real one word good description I could give to it. It doesn't treat you nicely if you don't treat it very nicely. It can catch you out, and I learned that myself. I had quite a big crash on the media day in my last lap of the day. Not really anything too much to say about that. Just a lot of things went wrong in one go, and small mistake, very big consequences. The track is a fantastic track to drive and super rewarding when you get it right, but it's so easy to get it wrong. And as I know, and so many people know very, very well. It's one of the best in the country, for sure. Well, we're about 10-ish, bit more seconds off the pace in the wet to the dry. So it does make a big difference. And the drivability also changes a lot. We, on our Formula Ford, we have not got dry tyres, but we don't have wet tyres either. They're sort of in the middle, not quite an Inter, a bit more slick than that. So it's a bit go-karty. you have to really change the way you drive because it's totally different. The car, as much as Formula Fords move a lot underneath you, the cars are not planted at all, especially in the wet. And yeah, you just have to be really, really mindful. You have to drive a lot on with your head as well as just what you're feeling. In the dry, you can get away with what you're feeling quite nicely, but in the wet, it's a lot in your head about thinking about, where are the puddles, where are the patches of rubber, which there are a lot of here. Like the first chicane here, the exit is super, super slick. I was coming up behind someone very quickly and they actually spun and I had to avoid them in the qualifying session. So yeah, it can be very, very challenging, but also again, it's super rewarding when you get it right. If I had to say one dream, it would be to be a professional driver for Porsche, a Porsche factory driver, because, as soon as I've known sports car racing, I've always been in love with the Porsche brand, Porsche cars, Porsche racing. But in general, I would consider myself to have achieved the dream if I can just be a professional racing driver in any respect, to be honest. I'd say if I could define the goal, it would be to race that, and if I get a chance to win Le Mans, that would be fantastic. So, yeah. Fairly positively. Had a bit of a difficult start, but nothing much really to expect apart from that in my first start in one of these cars. Had a good initial jump, but then not too sure what happened. Maybe bogged down slightly. Just coming away from the line. Didn't have many places to go since the cars ahead didn't have a great start either. But I lost a few positions there. Came back through, gained a few, got back up to my teammate Sam. We had a nice little scrap for a few laps. I managed to pass him, and unfortunately his engine overheated. So at that point, I think I was in P7, and that's where I stayed for the rest of the race. I was driving a little bit cautiously towards the end since me and Sam had a little bit of contact where he went slightly into the rear of me. I was slightly concerned that might have damaged something important, so I wasn't really pushing to the limit at that point, just trying to bring it home. And we're all fine, brought it home, 7th, first in the rookies, so yeah, pretty happy with that. The start absolutely is the thing I need to work on more. Also my first lap aggression. I was quite just constantly thinking about any risk of contact when I was around other cars on the first lap, especially going into the follow through into the kink. We ended up being 3 wide because of my bad start and other people's good starts, which I ended up backing out of. I probably would do that again, but yeah, I just need to build a bit more early aggression. It was fine later on, but yeah, just general race instinct needs to be a bit better. Yeah. I'd say I'm pretty comfortable in it now. We're not yet on the limit. Still got a fairly decent chunk to find before we're anywhere near able to run close to the front, but they're very challenging cars to drive. Anyone who at this stage is not struggling to find that is, not driving them well enough. So yeah, I'm comfortable but not quite happy yet. Yeah, next few races definitely improvement. Only got one more today, so I think as for today's lap times, there's only so much we're going to find. But yeah, it's about moving forward and working for the future races now.